In today's recipe, I'm going to show you how to bread chicken. So this is a homemade version of chicken nuggets or chicken dippers that obviously has healthier elements to it and uses the whole chicken breast or a chicken thigh. We're using a wholemeal bread. I've got a batch seeded loaf, so that increases your fibre as well. So the ingredients that you need for today is a few slices of bread, chicken, raw chicken. I've got salt and pepper, flour, egg. The more chicken you do, the more egg you'll need. So I've got one chicken fillet. I'm using one egg. Obviously, if you've got more chicken, use double egg, and you'll need more bread and flour as well. And I'm also using peri-peri seasoning. So with the salt and pepper, we season the flour. You can also add in extra things. You could put paprika in it, you could put cayenne pepper in, you could put chili powder in. I've chosen the peri-peri seasoning just to mix it up, so it adds that extra flavour in. On their own, unless you season the flour, it can be quite bland, so it is about introducing more seasoning so that those chicken nuggets that are healthy taste a little bit better, and obviously serve them with your favourite choice of dip. The main focus of today's lesson will be the use of a food processor. So I'm going to go through the safety elements of a food processor, obviously with some reminders about cross-contamination as well. So to get started, what I'm going to do first of all is prepare the chicken. And it's your choice completely. You can either do it as strips of chicken or you can do it as pieces of chicken. The most important thing to do is make sure that every piece is approximately the same size so that they all cook evenly. So if they've all got the same kind of surface area, they'll all cook at the same time. If you've got larger pieces and smaller pieces, you can end up with a very dry, small chicken nugget, whereas the bigger one would be raw still on the inside. So I'm using my knife with a red dot and my red chopping board to prevent cross-contamination. And what you want to do is just cut it into larger slices first before you then make it into even pieces. I'm going to do mine as nuggets today, so large, as squarish pieces as possible rather than the long strips. Once these are all cut up and into those pieces, I'll then show you how we use a food processor, how we make our bread. Now that all the chicken is prepared, I'm going to go through the safety elements of using a food processor. Obviously, if you've not got a food processor at home, this recipe can still be done. It's just that you would just buy the ready-made breadcrumbs instead. If you've got any sort of blender, that would also work with the breadcrumbs because it is just a case of them being broken up by a blade. So you've got the main electrical elements of the food processor. At the moment, I've not switched the plug on. So I've put the plug in, but I've just not flipped the switch down. So I just want to make sure everything is right, safety, before I turn on any power. So you have the main part of the food processor where the food goes, and that is slotted in. With the handle, you slot it in at the back, like so, and you want to lock it round. So there's teeth like a cog at the bottom. You want to lock it round, and it should be that the handle is opposite to the unit. Then you have the sharp blade. This is what processes all the food, gets it into those small pieces, and that will slot in, and it's got the same kind of shape here to the piece in the middle to make sure it goes on, and it should just push right the way down. You need to do all this beforehand. A lot of people put the food in and then they try and put the blade, and it will never go down far enough because the food's underneath, and that's when you get a problem with the lid going on. With the lid, you also have a little bit of a seal. That's just in case you're using lots of liquids so that, or hot food, so it doesn't splash out. It also allows you to remove that and add extra ingredients in as you are going along. So that just gets popped in. And again, we are going towards the back, allowing it to drop, and then you want it to be level with the handle and opposite the unit. And on here, there is actually a line that's been created, and you've got a line here and an arrow on the lid, and they should line up and should click in place. So now that's secure, so I can't remove it, but I need a little bit of force to remove it. They're lined up, and that is it, ready to go. It will not spin unless that lid is in place and that is locked. It has a recognition inside here. If the lid is slightly off and I turn the power on now, nothing will happen. It won't even allow me to turn it on, and that is a safety mechanism of most food processors. Click it into place and it comes on. So I'm going to use this now for our breadcrumbs. So all I've done is I've removed the crusts and I'm using 3 pieces of bread. If you're not removing the crusts, you can use less bread. The crust can be used, it's a little bit harder to break up, so it could take a little bit longer to make those breadcrumbs. And then all we're doing is just tearing it into a couple of pieces just so that it will fit in. Pop this on and then put it on. That will make breadcrumbs. You can't hear me. About 20 seconds, have a check. Some of my pieces are still quite big, so I'm going to do it for another 20 seconds. And now I have breadcrumbs. What you're going to do with the breadcrumbs is now put them onto a tray or a plate, and that will be the last step in coating our chicken. Pop them onto the tray, turn off the food processor, that can be washed later, and then breadcrumbs, just spread them out on the tray ready for the coating. So now I'm going to set up how we coat our chicken, and this is a process called enrobing. So we enrobe one ingredient with another ingredient. We are coating it completely. So we need a few ingredients just to allow that to happen and for it to be successful. So you can think about it as a chocolate biscuit that has been enrobed in chocolate. So the biscuit is covered in chocolate. So the word enrobing is very, very important so that you know the technical terms for this process. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to crack the egg into a jug. And the egg is going to work as our glue. So we just beat that up very slightly, and that's going to allow the breadcrumbs to stick to the chicken. What happens is the egg will set and it will hold those ingredients when heat is applied. It's called coagulation. If you want to go down the GCSE route, that's what we'd learn a lot more about. So it's the setting of the proteins in the egg. So once the egg is done in the jug, we then need to season our flour. And the flour is going to coat the chicken first of all. So I'll just put some pepper into there, more pepper than salt, put that extra flavour. Pinch of salt for flavour, and then I'm going to add in my paprika. Sorry, I've not got paprika, peri seasoning. So I pop some of that in, and then just give that a little bit of a mix around. Just use the opposite end because that's got egg on it. And that is my flour seasoned and ready to be used. So the reason that we put the flour on the chicken is quite wet. If we dip the egg into the egg will not grip to the chicken, it will slide off. So we need to dry the chicken out, and it's the perfect opportunity to season the chicken as well. So we dip it in the flour first, then in the egg, then in the breadcrumbs, and then we're going to pop them onto a baking tray. So I'm going to preheat the oven now. I'm going to put that on 200 degrees, gas mark 6, and we'll get this set up. And it's a little bit like a conveyor belt. So we have the chicken first, then the flour, then the egg, then the breadcrumbs, and then the baking tray. So you want to lay it out in this order. So raw chicken, flour, which is seasoned, egg, breadcrumbs, baking tray. What we do, put the flour into here. Now you will get mucky fingers doing this. It's not a clean job. If you're not liking it, you can wash your hands part way through. Just bear in mind you are handling raw meat, so you've got to be careful what you're touching because of cross-contamination. We don't want to be spreading the bacteria all around your kitchen. So I have now dried the flour off, dip it into the egg, allow the excess to fall off. You don't want it to be too covered in egg. We don't want it to be absolutely soaking. Drop it into the breadcrumbs, pat it down, and then just to get rid of the excess, just knock it between 2 hands until you have a coated, breaded piece of chicken. Pop it on your baking tray, start the process again. I'm going to go into a close-up now just to run through it once again so you can see on a close-up what each stage involves. And then once they're completed, I'll pop them in the oven and show you the finished product. We're going to start with the chicken. We're going to add our seasoned flour to it. So you're coating the whole piece of chicken in that seasoned flour to dry out the chicken to allow the egg to then be gripped to it. So once you can see that the whole piece of chicken has been coated in flour, you then dip it into the egg, turn it over, allow the excess to come off the chicken piece, so give it a little bit of a shake, pop it into the flour, into the breadcrumbs, turn it all around to coat it, and then between your hands just remove the excess bread before popping it onto the baking tray. So that's what you do with each one, and then we pop them in the oven, and they take approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Best thing to do, cut one in half at the end, the largest that you can notice, hopefully they should all be the same size, to check that it's white all the way through. After 20 minutes in the oven, the chicken now looks golden, so I'm going to take it out and show you how to check the inside if you're still a little bit worried that it might not be cooked all the way through. So chicken is now golden. I want it to slide off the tray. So all I'm going to do is get a knife and cut through one of the larger pieces of chicken. Very carefully pick it up, and you can see that it is white throughout the centre and therefore cooked. Hope you enjoyed the recipe. Obviously remember, if you can't do the breadcrumbs yourself because you don't have a food processor, you can do this exact recipe using the breadcrumbs that you buy in the shops ready made.